Let's get digital. Digital, I want to get digital. Can you hear my laptop dock?
Okay, hello everybody.
Hey everyone.
Oh, look at that wristed response there. Welcome to Yakker. This is something like episode 4. We're vivacious, we're bodacious, we're even loquacious. Let's have a little bit of a run through round the table, see who's here for us tonight, starting with the chap on my right.
I'm Chris Marsh from Melbourne Server Hosting.
I'm Al Mackin from the E-Word.
Mazhar Abidi was at JWT last Friday, but now moving to Initiative.
And Nick Wright from Studio North.
What a wily bunch. I happen to be Dave Thackeray, at Dave Thackeray. And before we go, without further ado, just a quick recap of who's who on the Twitter world, because we might like to stay in touch after the show. Chris, for you?
I'm at Al Mackin.
I'm at Mazhar Abidi.
And at Nick Wrighter.
We're never going to be as professional as that again, so folks, enjoy it while it lasts. It's not going to take us long. Listen, this is Yakker. This is, as I say, this is the podcast for Mancunians and everybody who's not even been to Manchester before, because this is all about what we need for the modern business. You heard from our special guest there, Mazhar Abidi. I'm very excited to be talking to him later on. But first, without any more of this deliberations and dabbling, let's get straight on into the News 9. This social stuff your boss needs to know all about the HubSpot way of life. 5 social media metrics that your CEO actually cares about. 5 different things. I think the things that we all need to know here is, are we in the right places? So think about, I don't know if you folks use Google Analytics, but if you go into traffic sources, you'll find an overview of social. Dead important to know that you're in the right places. Are we responding to customers on social? I use Community, commune.it, tells you that you're those that you're most engaged with and those awaiting replies. And lastly, have we grown awareness of our brand or product using social? Shares of your web content and making sure not to ignore followers who evangelize and don't buy. Dead important. So that's a HubSpot report that I found. That's first to kick things off on the News 9. Got to move on to 1 in 3 Americans now own tablets, study says.
That's right. So it's come out of research from Pew Research Center in the States that 1 in 3 adult Americans now own a tablet. And that's doubled from this time last year, which is quite impressive growth. Half of adults age 35 to 44. And it's, unexpectedly, it's those that are on higher incomes above $75,000, they say, and those with a college degree. So for a technology that people said might not really catch on, it's certainly caught fire, hasn't it?
Tell us about the tool of the week.
This is an amazing tool, and what I love about some of the tools coming out at the moment is that they are very focused on doing one thing, but doing one thing really well. Doodle's starting to catch on as a way of trying to get people into a room at the same time. But there's a tool that's come out that caught my eye called Tablizer, which is a way of converting spreadsheet data into an HTML table. And if you've ever tried to do this yourself manually, it's painful. If you export from Excel, it doesn't work. This one little tool will do it with some easy options, and it's going to make your life as a coder a lot easier.
Fantastic, thank you. And over to Chris for your SaaSCon review.
Yeah, it's just, it's obviously prominent that I'll bring up, the latest tools. Something that's happened for the 4th time now, the fourth annual conference for SaaSCon, which stands for Search Analytics and Social Media, over at the MNU Business School. So over 2 days, lots of speakers. I'm just continually impressed by the amount of attendees and real sort of figureheads, leaders that go and learn from others about what's going on in the search marketplace. So it's a really interesting couple of days.
Fantastic, good to hear. Now, Mitch Joel is a pal of mine. He's just written a book called Control-Alt-Delete. He is to Future of Business what Big Daddy is to pro wrestling, or maybe was. 25 mind-blowing stats about business today is a SlideShare report that he's put together. Just a few things to share with the table, quite exciting. Google's annual ad revenue is more than the entire US print industry's. Quite sobering thought, really, wouldn't you say? Amazon's is greater than half the world's GDP and more than your jewellery collection, Tabs. 14 years, we've gone from 38 million people with broadband to 1.2 billion, and that's on mobile phones alone. Staggering stuff like that. Maz, I'm going to ask you, if I was running a company and suddenly decided to take the internet seriously, how do you think I could catch up today? Is it all about social? Is the way to accelerate growth all about talking to customers?
I think it's about trying to integrate all the different channels together, really. I think that's the key. I don't think it's about one particular platform or channel or idea or whatever. I think it's about mixing them all together and really research, find out where your customers are, go talk to them, online, offline, or both.
And this is why the genius is heading east to a fantastic career. He knows his stuff, no doubt about it. He'll be firing like lasers before we know it. And talking about that...
Well, yeah, nicely dovetailed in. We should be very proud in Manchester that, Manchester University and a lot of research in Manchester has been done around the ultra-thin, ultra-light, ultra-cool, ultra-geeky material graphene. But they've now found that it can also be used to make ultra-short pulse lasers. Now, I won't get too technical into this, but... what it means is that by releasing quick bursts of light into different environments, they'll actually be able to make components of large-scale technologies. Using graphene is going to make them obviously lighter, more efficient to use, and just generally brilliant. So look forward to more developments on graphene.
Bit of Kevin and Perry at the end there as well. It's brilliant. We like that. Speeding on by, taxis coming up next. And I do believe, Mr. E-Word, we've got some exciting news on the app front.
Yeah, if you live in New York, which none of us do, there's been a big thing happened. Obviously, New York is full of taxis, yellow cabs. They want to make this, the process of getting a taxi easier, and they want to bring it into the online sort of age. There was some pushback from the taxis themselves. That's been nullified, and so now there's two companies, Uber and Halo, will allow you to hail a taxi or e-hail a taxi using an app. Some of the challenges I have with taxis is they never keep to the times that they say. 10 minutes, could be 10 minutes, could be 50 minutes. These apps or future apps will allow you to track where the taxi is, how close is it, if I've got time to go to the toilet, put a shirt on, all these things that you are struggling to do or struggling to know whether you've got time to do when you've ordered a taxi. So for me, this is exciting for New York, but exciting for when it comes to Manchester or the UK.
And in New York City, I believe one of these very, very rapid share video apps is becoming on vogue, Vine. And Chris, some news on the Vine front.
Yeah, just latest news, Vine becomes more popular than Instagram for sharing on Twitter. So I think there's a few people around this table that are guilty of hopping on the Vine bandwagon, as it were, which is really interesting, especially on Android tablets, Android phones, that more people are choosing to share what they're up to. This weekend with the sun, pictures of barbecues, I'm certainly guilty of it myself, but just rather than Instagram, because Instagram dying out with the whole Facebook thing, don't know, we'll see, but interesting start.
And Vine recently came to Android, which means that plebs like me can use it. So thrilled. I don't think I'll be quite jumping on the bandwagon like a certain Mr. DP has with his taking Vine photos of small dishes in restaurants. Probably Salita, I know he's biased. That was the News 9, except it was 8, and we've got one from me, actually, just to finish things off. Draw.io. Now, I can't draw. The clues in the title there. In fact, I was looking for a wireframe creator, and I'm too poor to use Visio. So I went on the search after finding the tool of the week, which we've just talked about, which is fantastic, and came across Draw.io, which apparently is a whipped-up smack-dad version of a heartbeat of diagrams in a cluster format. That's what I decided to call it. It will describe any diagram for you in graphical form, and it really is ridiculously good. So get over to Draw.io if you like your kicks free and in a flowchart format. That's my clue, and that's the News 9 for now. Past Forward comes up next. This is where you get to know the team and find out a bit more about what they've been up to in the past week or month. With it being June 2013, we've all had a fair old time in the sunshine, and I'd like to find out now what exactly that has been. So, Nick, I believe you've had quite a torrent of a day, but what's it been like for you these past few weeks? Busy?
Busy, very busy. We're a bit of a plug. We're recruiting right now. We're looking for PHP developers, so that's kind of high on my agenda. But also, really, really busy time on the new business front. I get involved in that too, as well as sort of brand and digital strategy, so looking at strategies for clients, but probably a dozen new business opportunities in the last 7-8 days have landed on my desk, which is good. Keeps us fresh and busy.
So if you're a coder at Studio North, let the people know.
You know where to come.
They'll be
And we're busy.
delighted to hear from you. Mars, apart from lying on the sofa, what have you been up to these past few
well,
weeks?
the reason I've been lying on the sofa is I'm actually between jobs at the moment. So finished up at JWT last Friday, and I'm heading east, emigrating to Dubai. Got a job at Initiative Media, so I'll be head of social there, starting from the end of June. So I've only got 2.5 weeks to get visas sorted, pack up life, say goodbye to people, whatever, all the other various bits and pieces, and then all the things I'm going to forget as well. So bit of a busy period, but wrapping things up at work and looking forward to a new challenge now.
You're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, thank you
Your
very much,
visa's always
Dave.
welcome here,
Thank
Mars.
you very much.
E-word, Google. How about yourself?
I've been wrestling with a server this week. So we had a server in the office which is over 4 years old now. So we knew we needed to replace it. So we got this massive one from Dell, which is the most exciting thing for me, is to turn that on and see it light up. 32 gig of RAM, 24 processor cores. It was beautiful. But the switch from the old server to the new one, you'd think it'd be like a day or 2 days, but it's been coming up to 2 weeks now. It's such a complex thing to do, but we're almost at the end, and we actually wrote a farewell card to the old server last Friday. Everyone got to write a message, and it was really touching to see how that server had become an important part of people's lives. That was the E-word 3, and we've now got the E-word 4.
That's a beautiful thing. Was it literally in bits?
At the moment, it's in a very interesting state and form, but we will put it into a nice place for it to rest eternally.
That's a beautiful thing. At March 80 then, what's life been like for you these past few weeks?
Again, another busy one. There's always talk about Mosey and the future of Mosey. So I decided just recently to have a look into some of the initiatives that they're putting together. And there's this STEM ambassador role, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering and Mathematics, whereby we're looking for volunteers, about 800 in Manchester alone, looking for volunteers to go into schools and actually just spend a bit of time in primary schools and high schools and colleges with students and just show them real world, people from the real world using science, technology, engineering and mathematics. So I'm to do with that.
Once again, if you understood any of that, do get in touch with the Yakker team, Yakker podcast on the Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. And Chris would also appreciate a dictionary to reverse engineer his vocabulary. Wonderful. Thanks for that, Chris. Appreciate that. And I'm just very excited about the launch of the Acer Aspire S3 and S7 range, the notebook and the Ultrabook, which will be sporting the Haswell processor, which is Intel's next-gen version of the battery optimizing, graphics-intensive thing that actually looks like it's going to redefine mobile computing. I'm really excited to see that. Have you guys heard of it? No, nobody's excited except me. Yeah,
no,
that's the way it goes. Thanks for that.
But I have now.
Yeah, thanks.
There you go.
Pleasure. Right, Google. It's been a long time since we last saw your gorgeous face around this table.
It's been a month. It has.
You've grown a beard and all sorts.
I have, to hide my beautiful face. There's been lots of exciting things happening with Google. There always is. I wanted to pick up on something that was a bit different. I don't know whether anyone remembers the first time they used either Google Maps or Google Earth, and knowing that you could zoom into any part of the planet and see what was happening was such an amazing thing to do. And Google obviously had a plan, and they knew that the future was about local, and that involved mapping and taking pictures and all sorts of things. But I wonder if they knew exactly how that would be used. Did they know that, for example, Eastern European tax authorities would use Google Earth and Google Maps and Google Street View to find houses that had been built without permission? That's what they're doing it for, and they can use this to find areas that they couldn't get to. Saves lots and lots of money from them going out, and they've reclaimed around $130,000 in additional taxes for people who've just decided to build a new house or an extension. So it's a very useful way for Google to help get taxes back into countries. On the flip side, Google's come under fire recently with other companies as well about their non-payment of tax or the perceived low payment of tax. And it was something I wanted to bring up because I have an opinion, and I wanted to gauge the opinion of everyone else. And do you think it's appropriate? Do you think it's right for an organisation to try and reduce their tax using mechanisms that are perfectly legal. And the quote from Google was they were perplexed at why there was so much focus given to this tax avoidance, not evasion, tax avoidance mechanism. So, Chris, what do you think about a situation like this?
There's never a right answer, really, is there? I mean, great if there's a loophole where you can, save money if that's the right term of phrase. But then again, the flip side is, what if everyone did that? What state would we be in? So it's a difficult one. Would you do it if you could? I suppose most people would say, yeah, let Jimmy Carr like to take that. But I think ultimately it's just a slippery slope, isn't it?
I'd go even further. I wouldn't say most people do it. I'd say all people do it. And I think if you wouldn't, I think you might be lying to yourself, honestly. I mean, at the end of the day, then I don't think they're breaking any laws. If it turns out they're doing something illegal, then I think, we need to come down on like a ton of bricks. But, you think the government have got to have some culpability. It's all right, them, crying foul. But if they've allowed these loopholes to exist, why aren't they, closing them up ASAP, really? Boycotts and this and that will, people can do it to make their own social conscience feel better. But at the end of the day, the government has as much culpability as the companies, I think. So, yeah.
I think it's confusing for companies because the government does all sorts of things to help people reduce tax, to encourage growth and to encourage companies to put the time and effort into R&D. You've got the patent box, which if you own a patent, it'll reduce your corporation tax. Yeah. There's all sorts of credits that allow you to reduce your corporation tax if you put money into creating something unique. So it's confusing for businesses. And don't forget that Apple or any public corporation, the people who run that corporation could be sued by the shareholders if they don't act in the shareholders' interests, aka improving profitability and reducing taxation. So I think, Chris said there's no right or wrong answer. I think the government needs to act. I think that's where it needs to come from. Google's not going to voluntarily give up hundreds of millions.
No, that's right. I think most large corporates are doing it, like Maz said, and I think most would. I think Apple they were easy media fare, I think, really, because obviously everyone picked up on their brand strapline of obviously don't be evil, and that didn't really align to that. So obviously the media grabbed hold of that and threw that effectively back in the face. But so it's certainly, as far as I'm aware, and everything that's been covered, it's certainly legal. It's just more a moral thing. And when you have a clear brand value such as that and you don't live it, then people, particular media, will jump on you. And that's what's happened in Google's case.
You're on a bit of a tax drive tonight, aren't you? What is it with you tonight? You just got your HMRC or something?
I think, no, I haven't, no.
He's next in line to be checked.
They're coming for you.
I think it's something that gets picked up by the media, and the flip side doesn't get seen. People complain in the pub with a pint about, evil Apple or evil Google, and I think it's something important to be discussed. But Google taketh away, Google also giveth, at least to some people in America. Google started offering fibre broadband up to a gigabit at an amazing price of $70, which by my maths is about 50 quid.
Yeah.
To have that sort of pipe going into your house is incredible. The amount of illegal downloading that some other people that are not me could do is amazing.
The taxmen aren't going to get you, and the torrent police aren't after you.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm being absolutely clear that I
never heard of a torrent myself. No, torrents, what are they?
Well, Google had a very good deal. They bought at least one of the two companies that they use for fibre very, very cheaply, and it was Goldman Sachs did a report on how much it would cost Google to hit a significant amount of the US market, and in this case 20 million different homes, and they reckon it costs 70 billion. So the challenge for Google is not to just to offer this, but to expand it at a good cost. But then you have end-to-end, so Google controls the network, the search, and in some cases the sites that people see. So you have an entirely Google sphere, which is going back to the AOL days. AOL was the network and the platform, and in some cases the products as well.
What can I'm talking as a layman here. What can Google bleed from the system that it doesn't already by piggybacking on ISPs? But it's something that I've never really got my head around. Where's the value there for it?
I mean, tracking what people do is a really important part of Google's future. So knowing what people are downloading, because if you go to Bing and do a search, how would Google know that unless they own the network? And I'm just hypothesizing. But to own end-to-end mobile, standard online is a really strong position to be in.
So now they've got a piece of the pie, but they want the whole damn kahuna. Basically.
Yeah, if it's achievable within a good amount of cash, and that is the challenge. $70 billion is a huge amount of money to have to spend to reach 20 million US homes. And finally, Google's Doodles. We used to love them. Some of us still love them. These funny little pictures they put up. I think they've gone too far. The other day they celebrated Potato Day. Now, I love potato smiley faces. I love waffles. I love fries. Anything made out of potato, but I don't care about Potato Day. And the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, their 140th anniversary. The first 10, the first 50 celebrated, 140. So my question to the audience here tonight is, do you think that Google's Doodles have gone too far?
I think, for me, I love the Google Doodles. They're a bit of fun, but, the interactive ones I think are great, and I think there's more and more of them. I mean, I can't remember for what it was, but there was one where, it might have been a couple of months ago, or even, maybe even a year ago, when there was a keyboard, I think it was, you could actually play. I mean, that was genius. Yeah. It really was, but, just the odd picture with the odd icon there, it's just a bit crap, really, aren't they, to be honest? But
how far can you take it? We've had the playable pianos, we've had track and field on there, which is a fantastic one. I think it was Patek's 55th birthday today, and I thought, let's just take it a bit too far, because nobody's heard of him, nobody ever will. I think he's still living.
Exactly, and I think, when there's an event that, clearly is, culturally relevant to the world, I think, yes, create a doodle, but, when we get to, very nation-specific stuff, I don't really see the point then, to be honest. But I don't run Google, so what can I say?
It allows them to be a bit creative, though, doesn't it? And I think, I come from a creative background, and I love them. I do enjoy to see what I'm going to get from one day to the next. And they do try to be topical, and sometimes there are good news stories, sometimes there isn't, So they kind of scratch the end of the bucket a few times, but so do the media. So
it's like the Noel Edmonds of the internet, isn't it? It keeps coming back until a point where you think, maybe it's more the Ant and Dec.
Yeah. But I same as you guys, I appreciate the kind of technical. It gives them sometimes an arena to demonstrate how technical it can be and really push the sort of HTML boundaries and browser boundaries, and they really do that well. Potato Day perhaps didn't fulfill that.
They've had some good Chrome experiments, Google, haven't they? I think they've kind of shifted focus a little bit, maybe taking the creative team slightly left field. They did a great thing where you could actually create a band using something similar to Hangouts, where somebody somewhere in the dim and distant past in Cambodia would be playing a trumpet, you'd be playing a keyboard in England, you'd have somebody in Zambia playing a bugle. Things like that have been working out quite nicely, but I wonder whether they've just realised that it's getting to the end of its natural life and they've actually started to focus a little bit more time on more meaningful experiments, but they won't let it die.
For Chrome experiments, my favourite one really is the Arcade Fire Wilderness Downtown. If anyone didn't check that out, I think it might still be up, but get onto the wildernessdowntown.com. I won't go into any more, but just play with it, and it's genius. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Google, as always, the venerable Mr. I tell you what, Mackin, you always impress. You really do. It's good to have you here. Quick round robin before we finish off with some part one for you. You can take a tea break after that and do what you like. Make sure you come back after it, for goodness sake. Quick recap who we've got here today.
Chris Marsh from Melbourne Server Hosting.
Al Mackin from the E-Word.
Mazza Beatty going to be from Initiative.
And Nick Wright from Studio North.
Fantastic plug there for Initiative. We can't wait to see how they get on with our special guest, Maz, once he sets foot in Dubai. Now, over to Nick now for Win or Fail. And we talked on the last episode of this fantastic podcast about Google Glass, but we're going to take it a bit further now, Nick, aren't we?
That's right, yeah. I just wanted to follow on from Dan Nolan's good piece on Glass last month and speak a bit more in general now about kind of wearable. And mainly because it was a topic largely discussed on this year's D11 conference with everybody from Apple, Google, Microsoft, all really citing how wearable technology is going to be really firmly on their R&D agenda. Tim Cook was quite cagey. He didn't open to much, but he certainly said that it was definitely on their R&D without giving away too much. And for me, I think wearables is the next kind of natural step, I think, for technology. I think we've all been kind of wearing phones on us, really, or certainly in our pockets now for the last number of years, and mobile phones are now a pretty much an extension to us, and really wearables technology really is exactly that. I think it's still very early days for wearables, and people like Google are very much testing the water and I think doing a very good job. But I think probably all of us around the table would agree that it certainly will succeed. In fact, it kind of already is doing on a smaller market and niche scale already, actually, which I'll discuss in a minute. But I do think it's only a matter of time before wearables certainly becomes mass market. Just quickly onto glass as kind of one of the things. I don't need to discuss the ins and outs of what it is and what it does, because I think we covered that last month. But I personally don't think glass is the product that will succeed in the short term. I don't think it's the type of products that will naturally be mass market. I think with it being glasses, I think it's good for the early adopters, and I think I can see probably one or two, and I think Chris mentioned last time he would be one of them. But I can't see glass being worn in the next 12 even to 18 months by everybody on the bus. I've got to say I really can't. But it's Google's attempt again to push the boundaries. It's Google's attempt to show the world what wearables is, because I bet 3/4 of us, technology or not, wasn't aware of wearables before Google pushed this boundary. So that again, they're just breaking down another door and making it really out there. And I think when Google start to attempt to develop anything, others come up in the flanks and really kind of follow, which is good. I think wearable will certainly succeed. I think in most cases, though, it's when the benefits outweigh the technology, outweigh the impracticality. And just taking the glasses on again, really, the reason why I'm not sure they're the best place to start, because I think glasses do have an impracticality to them. I think most people who wear glasses wear them because they have to and not because they kind of need to. Sunglasses aside, but there is a kind of fashion element to them, and you could argue that Google Glass is the same. But still, they are kind of little obtrusive, really. I think if we move on from glass and look at the other, I think more likely products that more likely will come mass market, it's probably the wristband and the watch kind of technology.
There.
And Chris is already sporting one, not a pair of Google Glass yet. I think one because of practicality. But also because of cost. I think it's been cited that Google Glass is probably going to be around the $1,500 kind of mark, where you can get these products now on pre-order for sort of $120, $150. So wristband and watch, I see certainly in the short to mid-term that's where it's going. And in fact, as Chris has already demonstrated there, wristband technology has already began to kind of shift, really, particularly in the fitness and leisure industries.
Those with money to burn.
And lots of calories.
Thanks for that.
But yeah, I mean, obviously monitoring heart rate, activity levels, that kind of thing, they're the things that I've really picked up, and sports guys that, fitness fanatics are really kind of using those now. But there's also a pretty interesting product called Myo, which is due at the end of this year, again around that £120 mark. It's a gesture control armband. It's had some really good reviews, actually. It'd be worth kind of looking into that with its own site, and lots of good video footage on there. And effectively, it allows you to make gesture controls to control anything. Your computer, video games. There's a great scene there online where a guy is commanding a presentation in front and using push, pull, flick technology. There's a guy there controlling a video game. So extending on the Wii, really, and going much further than that, where I think it's a shoot-'em-up demonstration game where he's literally drawing a gun from the back of his shoulder. And I mean, it's great, really, really good. But basically anything you might control, you can control through this Myo device. And I don't want in any way to kind of be biased toward one product or another, because there's absolutely lots of them out there. There really is. But I just wanted to sort of stress that I do think it's the wrist-type band technology that is going to succeed, because people are already wearing watches. People are already wearing wristbands. I think it's an easy, natural next step, rather than forcing people or hoping that people will put a pair of glasses on, which is probably slightly unrealistic for the time being. Next product I looked at is Pebble, which is the watch. Again, I think it's on pre-order, due out this year also, around £100 to £120. Now, what this does, it kind of merges the wristband technology and phone technology, which I think is pretty exciting. So yeah, you can get all the health and fitness monitoring stuff and sensory stuff, but also send and receive text messages. You can manage your email. You can control your music on your phone through it, receive alerts and notifications. Really, really good, actually. It's not quite there yet because it's not actually independent of your phone. So all of this is happening. It's basically using Bluetooth to connect to your phone that's in your pocket. So the way they're kind of plugging it right now is it's a hands-free device. So literally, it's very easy to use. But I can see it won't be too long where almost the watch devices I've got a SIM card in them and they're replacing your phone almost. Not sure how much Apple will push that for the time being, but that's kind of probably where it's going. But also, all these things are based on open frameworks, so that they're encouraging developers, to create apps for them. Be as creative as you want. And so, really, as the world is the developer's oyster when it comes to this type of technology, which of course they all love. Just quickly on to some other really kind of exciting stuff. I don't know if any of you have heard of Google biometrics when it comes to kind of wearables.
No.
Really, some really good stuff going on. Again, it's Google testing the water and almost getting into the realms of biology now. So this is beyond watch, it's beyond wearable. This is it literally physically becoming a part of you. And the two routes they're trialling with a company called MC10, who are an innovation and technology company, are effectively digital tattoos that are embedded on your skin. So we really are, all those films we kind of watch, the Arnie films, like Dan mentioned last month, it kind of really is coming to fruition now. We are almost there. So yeah, this is everything from health. So it's sensing technology to give you insights into your current health, discover a potential condition before it actually arises, before you'd even know it's there. Remote monitoring. So heart rate, blood pressure, body temperature, all from this little microchip installed in a tattoo, can all be monitored remotely. So doctors can kind of connect with you. If they'll know you've got something wrong with you before even you will, and they can alert you. Same with loved ones as well. If you've got an elderly parent, you can remotely from your smartphone understand whether their heart rate or blood pressure is going higher than perhaps it should be.
That reminds me of that film. Did anybody see that film with the trouser snake called In Time, where he had... Yeah, I mean, that's so... Really? Yeah. Healthy dose of irony there from Marsh 80. But no, very similar patterns. You get this thing installed in your arm. It tells you how long you got left. I mean, is that the next thing after biometrics has taken hold?
I'm sure it is, yeah. I mean, baby monitor as well. I think a good few of us here have got kids, and we've all, is she too cold? Is he too warm? Well, again, a small little patch can be, I know it sounds awful, but almost embedded on your baby. But it can send you then a remote alert should you get too hot, too cold, wake up. So, but another really exciting thing, have any of you heard of the authentication pill? So it's something Google are trying. I mean, this is just surreal. You literally swallow a pill with a tiny chip in it. And that chip, they're also using this for authentication as well as tattoo. So it's the same company and Google with MC10 who are trialing this. But we all struggle with identification and passwords, and it's getting worse. The stats you kind of see on passwords and people using admin 123 and ridiculous. I mean, and the guys, obviously the criminals, are just having a field day with it. People tend to use easy passwords like that because they can't remember difficult, complex passwords, and obviously criminals are benefiting from that. But what Google are coming up with is effectively either a patch embedded like a tattoo or a pill that you swallow, which will encode this password, a really highly encrypted password that you never remember physically. It can be as complex as you want. And then just like touchless technology, all it is a tiny piece of hardware that you connect to your PC, and it recognises when you're on the particular site with a particular password and will automatically log you in. So it's
presumably it's got a claw or something, because my pastime is about 10 hours, isn't it? So how does it stay in the system longer?
It does. It's over a period of time. Right now, it's a pill every day. So that's not really feasible. I don't think that's going in. I think this is Google's way of telling us where the future could do. Again, it's not practical yet, but it's Google really pushing the boundaries and will get us there.
Huge compensation for human stupidity, isn't it, really?
Well,
We can't remember a password. We can't use LastPass
it is.
to lock
And
passwords
obviously
into a system
there's
for
threats as well. Like the guys against that are obviously saying, well, where does it go now? Obviously, right now it's just about people guessing passwords. Beyond that, it's about literally taking you as a physical being, and so it could get a bit dangerous there. But lastly, I thought I'd end with something that kind of might tickle all your fancy, and that's the kind of future of foreplay.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
What's that? Not had that for years.
Yeah, the condom, moving away from Google, the condom giants Durex have unveiled a kind of sexy wearable technology called Thunderwear. It's underwear designed for long-distance lovers, and it allows couples to touch each other over the internet, literally using fitted motion pads in their underwear. So couples kind of activate them using the smartphone with touch sensor points to control remotely how sensitive, where, when these sensual vibrations could occur. So I'll leave you with that thought.
Yeah, so, I heard about this and I thought, there's things like time difference stuff. You might be late night at your place, but your girlfriend might be on the bus on the way home or something. So I don't know. Could be a bit tricky. That
We're going to record it in a podcast. Like that.
Well, you never know.
I saw you smiling.
Yeah, well.
Did anybody see the Bourne Legacy recently, touching on what you were just talking about, Nick, where he had his blues and his greens and he ran out and he was looking for his chems and they were terminating all of these spies, agents, whatever it was, and they swapped their pills around. So instead of having the blues and the greens, they had this yellow one. It's all right. It's part of the new procedure. I'm just thinking if David Cameron followed down that password route and somebody swapped his pill over, you could terminate the world leaders, really, couldn't you? And all their passwords would be into disrepute. I like that from Google. What are the thoughts to all that stuff, anybody? I mean, biometrics and swapping, underpants, that kind of thing. I mean, what is this the future wearable technology? Do you think we're going down the right path, or are we looking at implanting microchips into our faces and arms?
I think the iWatch is something I'd definitely get if that came out tomorrow. And Nick talked about the framework that you have where these watches are very open and you can develop things for them. There's technology out there that I could buy, but I'm waiting for something by a big provider, such as Apple or Google. The things beyond that for me are interesting and exciting, but it's 2, 5, 10 years down the line. So I'm looking at, what's going to be in my next year's plans for buying. It's going to be an iWatch.
Yeah. I think for me, it's, this might be an insight into my psyche. I think, the technology is great, but the Google Glass, and it's really pricey, but it's very cool. And, you could even think about, putting that money into it, but it just look awful. I mean, I've seen pictures of, was it Larry, one of the Google execs kind of wearing it on the New York subway, Sergey, yeah. It just looks terrible. I mean, integrate it into my sunglasses or into my normal glasses and I'd consider wearing it, but I just couldn't. I mean, the Nike Fuel Band, it's cool, it's a wristband. Yes, you can tell you're wearing it, but it's not obtrusive. And I think until that happens, I don't think they're going to get mass adoption for me anyway.
Yeah, for me, just technology is just changing so rapidly. So I'm a bit geeky like that. I like gadgets, so I like to know what's there and what's available. And again, things that are so cost effective, they're not that expensive to buy. So there'll be something that'll come about after Google Glass, presumably either an improvement or to just wipe it out altogether. But for me, it's just Star Trek stuff.
I think it's time to have a recap then. Wearable technology, is it a win or a fail? Let's have a group vote. And I think, Nick, it's fair to say I know where you're going with this.
It's certainly a win for me, but we've not quite got there yet.
Maz?
I'm going to go for immediate to long-term win.
Ooh. I'm sort of somewhere on the fence, so either whale or fin, somewhere in the middle.
Did we have to invite this retard back in the show?
It's a win for me, definitely a win for me.
I believe that's a win, Nick. Congratulations. Your prize will be delivered after the show. Probably in a form of peculiar underpants with switches in it. Up to you whether you want to wear them in public or not. And that was win or fail.
Inspirational.
And now for that part of the show that you and I have both been desperately seeking. A while back, I did a recording with BBC Radio Merseyside about the Sally Bercow case. That was where she insinuated something against Lord McAlpine, which ended up in her having to pay some kind of unghastly sum to the High Court. Now, All this stuff about social policing is big in the news these days. I mean, how do we expect to protect ourselves when there are no frameworks, there are no codes of conduct, and ultimately all we've got to protect us is common sense? Mazabidi has got a lot to say about this, and I'll really be interested, Maz, to find out what fascinates you about this whole social media policing palaver.
For me, I'm always sort of interested in, what the users and what the real people do on social media. 'Cause I think that drives what we as me and us as kind of brand marketers do on social media with the consumers. And I don't know if people have been following, but the Facebook recently put a statement out cracking down on pages that, well, for want of a better word, almost glorified women's abuse towards women. I think it was after action by a number of groups. I think Women, Action and Media were the chief drivers of that. So I think they put out a statement saying that, yes, they hadn't been as tight controlling hate speech, and particularly on women's abuse issues. So, they've taken the pages down, and they were acting to take down a number of other pages that abused and, went against the policies that they had. I think the wider issue for me on Facebook is, I don't know about you guys, but I've always found Facebook to be a very opt-out versus an opt-in company. So they'll make changes and they'll opt you in before giving you a chance to opt out. That's quite uncomfortable for me, and my use of Facebook has reduced as that's happened over the years. I'm not really too happy about that. I think it should be there should be an opt-in, but then again, what they say is that we develop services and enhancements to our service that people don't even know they want. The newsfeed was, I think, the last great example from their point of view, whereby they introduced a newsfeed, gave it to us all, and actually we all thought it's actually something that makes the Facebook experience better. I think at the beginning there was a lot of outrage. Oh, Facebook are changing this and that and whatever, and it's happened right. I think another example, they bought Instagram. Instagram changed the terms and conditions. I think it might have been a year or so ago, maybe a bit less. That their policy, their privacy policy, I think basically said that we'll be able to use your photos for whatever we want. There was a mass outcry. They were forced to back down. But again, I think it was just another example of, we'll opt you in and then you opt out later. I was just wondering what kind of what the table's thoughts were on this. What could we share? What should we share? What is allowed? Where are the boundaries, really? I mean, clearly, pages glorifying women's abuse, that is way beyond the line. But there are other, areas where, the whole issue of free speech comes into it. And does that even matter on social media? What are people's thoughts on that?
I think the point around free speech is that's governed by the country, I guess, that you're in, and by the laws of that country. So that's one of the ways that you can lasso content and say it's good or bad. The other ways is the power of the media or the power of people. So, you may find something offensive, but perhaps other people don't for whatever reason. So there has to be one of those three things. It's either a huge amount of the network hates it, the government has a law against it, or the media decides that they don't like a particular part. Or a particular
Who do you
topic.
see as the guardians of that? Because for me, I think Facebook's ultimate, I think their ideal scenario is the community are their own guardians, but I'm not sure if the community are smart enough to be the guardians, really. So, do Facebook police that? Does the government police that? Or,
I think
where do we go?
A joined up approach, because if Facebook change things and take down a post or a group or whatever it is, then they are seen as pushing back on free speech. It's probably best leaving it to the government. If you run a business, do you want to create a lot of problems? No. So I think it has to be a joined up approach with the government leading, led by what the people want or what the media say the people want, and then Facebook.
Do you think the government would ever step in at that level? Because I'm just seeing no end of reprisals, and I know what people are like right now with authority, right? I mean, they don't respect it at its most basic level. For you to step in and effectively censure free speech at a point, because whatever they do now is going to be seen as an intervention. is that not going to strike back at the very heart of an authority that needs to be there at a more moral level, at a more social level, ironically, than actually interfering with networks, which are there fundamentally to give people a chance for free speech?
I think it's a great point and a great concept to have this ability for the network to be censored by its own sort of people who are on there. But I mean, if 51% of the people are for something, then that's a vote winner, isn't it? So the government will at least talk about doing something.
Just talking about governments as well, if anyone's been, following the recent events in Turkey last week, I think the government tried to step in, and I think it just made things worse. So on the flip side, they're probably, freaked out, scared about stepping in because they know the power that social media has. So I don't even know if there's a right answer, to be honest, but it'd just be interesting to get everyone's opinion on it.
We have to start somewhere, Chris, don't we? I'm thinking maybe a code of conduct, very simplistic framework that at least all of the networks can come together on. I mean, there is this united front as far as social goes. We all want people to interact. There's profits to be made in every channel, so everybody stands to win. Is there a starting point for all this? Because right now, Maz, you're absolutely spot on. There doesn't seem to be anywhere to begin this conversation with. And maybe this is something that... Chris is looking blank for a change. I'm enjoying this.
Do you know what?
I've absolutely stumped you, haven't I?
I'm really sorry. I'm quite busy just looking for this Worldwide Developers Conference that's going on at the same time. It's very rude of me, but just trying to sort of keep up to track with what's
looking for
what's
the
going
iWatch,
with,
isn't he?
I think he's looking for those
the next best thing.
Are they on sale yet? Yeah, no, he's got his fuel band. He's happy. I think it's a great question. I think social media policing deserves its own section of government. I know government's very keen to look for inward investment when we've got things like Silicon Corridor down London Way, and is it Silicon Triangle? You'll have to forgive me. But I think it's all right. They don't like to step in when there's something that's potentially contentious, but when it's something that can generate applause or in some way monetary value for them, they're all for it. I just don't know whether it's going to take some real big shake-up from the socials to get them.
It is, and I think the other things as well, the subjects and the topics that these extreme views are starting to, extreme pages are starting to come out. I mean, abuse against women, EDL, the recent events in Woolwich, these are some really heavy topics in the real world, forget on the social world. So, I don't know. I just think, if the community could regulate itself, it'd be great. But, in the absence of that, who steps in? Because there's a vacuum, I see.
I feel like there should almost be the win or fail, and we've switched topics completely, because I personally think that there's a great opportunity for governments. I know they would step back from it, but Al, you made some very good points, Maz, equally. Is there future for this, or are we stuck in this time warp forever where unless somebody stands up to the plate, we're just constantly going to be asking the same questions?
I think there is a future, but I'd be interested to look back and see what struggles came about when, say, the press emerged, when the printing press was created. Did we have the same sort of issues around people going too far, and how was that controlled? And is there any parts of history that could guide us?
I think this is where we throw it out to you, the audience. Get onto the Twitter at Yakker Podcast. Tell us what you think. Social media policing. Maz will still be listening from his ivory tower in Dubai with his flash Ferrari and his tax-free gains. But
not for another 30 years, I don't
think. You're welcome back with your bags anytime. That's
cheers, Dave.
You're all right, pal. Listen, great stuff. That was Maz Abidi there, sharing his insights on social media policing. Now, we weren't supposed to tell you an awful lot about events tonight because orchard.co.uk has pretty much got it covered, so you can go over there if you need to. And I'm giving a hat tip to somebody who's never been invited on the programme. If you want to come in or you want to sponsor the show, let us know. But there's a social media surgery on the 27th of June from 2:30 for the community and the third sector enterprises. Now, I always think that this is a neglected part of society. They've got to fight their own battles, but on top of that, they've got to find people to give them money. It's all about funding channels and grants and all that sort of stuff. So it's great to see somebody responding directly to this section of the community. So social media surgery takes place at MAC in the Swan Buildings on 20 Swan Street. You'll know that as Ancoats, from 2:30 to 4:30 on Thursday, the 27th of June. Just wanted to throw that one in for you there. Before we progress, has anybody else got any events?
There's another couple of award ceremonies, Big Chip Awards.
Should have known, Chris.
Obviously, another chance to get the Penguin outfit out. And the Prolific North Marketing Awards at the start of July, which is another one for the calendar.
Thank you for your time. Thank you all for your time. Nick is in absentia now. He's got plenty of other things to do, but we're going to wrap things up on Yakker, episode 3, kind of 4. We've been through so many of these by now. Kind of the mental block starts kicking in. But let's just finish off again from the far right. We've had tonight.
Chris Marsh from Melbourne Server hosting.
Twitter is
Marsh80.
Al Mackin from the E-Word. Twitter is Al Mackin.
Mazarabidi from Initiative, and Twitter is Mazarabidi. And for the spelling of that, get on the website.
Yeah, Mazherabidi.
Yes, you got it in one day.
Come on,
Good
no
man.
script required. That has been Yakker. We have been beholden to you. You've been a fantastic audience. Thanks for sticking with us. Get on the YouTube, get on the Twitter, get on the Facebook, get everywhere, because we're probably going to be there. Yakker.co.uk or on Twitter, Yakker Podcast. And let us know what you think, because we'd love to hear from you. We'll be back soon, maybe with a lady on the panel next time. I'm seeing an affirmative nod of the head from our head, Michael de Paula, and also to Nick Wright, their co-founder of Studio North, here to join us on today's show. We wish you a great few weeks ahead. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.